Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife you strove to learn and practice. Shining mundane concerns made life essence. Protector from depths of our. We rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable Guru, from love and wisdom, clouds densely massed in your Dharmakaya sky, pray loose a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May the virtue that I've here gathered bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make venerable laws undrop essential teaching specially shine forever. May they wait and generate dream again po chambel lu bu ma lu zhong ze zang wei la kan yin ki fei bu yan zong ga ba lo zang ra bei ya la zo wa de. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments common and supreme. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, until supreme awakening remains steadfast. Homage to the exalted three jewels. Thus have I heard at one time. The Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection and wisdom, perfectly looking at emptiness, inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said, Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a child of lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of a lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. That is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, no mental phenomenon.
There is no I element.
So forth up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. And because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times, by relying upon the perfection of wisdom, become manifest, complete Buddhas in a state of unsurpassed, perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequal mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, should be known as the truth, is proclaimed. Tayata gate gate parasam gate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, well said, O child of the lineage, so it is. Profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced exactly as you've taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. In the holy supreme abode of the Dakinis, possessed of clairvoyance and miraculous power, unwaveringly caring for practitioners, your children, homage to the hosts of the three places Dakinis. Akasamara Chasadara Samaraya Per. Akasamara Chasadara Samaraya Per. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Soha. Through the power of truth, the exalted three-jewel speech, may all the sign of negativity, such as four maras, be stopped. May they become non-existent. May they be pacified. All enemies, obstructors and hindrances, Shanti Kuriya Soha. The 80,000 types of obstructors pacified, free from adverse, harmful conditions. May all be conducive and perfect auspiciousness, bring happiness and well-being here, right now. Anointed flower, strew meru volant, sun and moon adorn, seen as Buddha, filled and offered, Dharma all sentient beings enjoy pure land. Geshe Lama Dhamma yenam Kirya Gurala Geshe Yedang Guru Mandala Kamniyadaya. Sangye Chedan Zogi Dalam La Chanchu Badu Dani Yasu Chi Dagi Chejingi Pesonam Ki Dola Penche Sangye Rupasha Sangye Chedan Zogi Chonam La Chanchu Badu Dani Yasu Chi Dagi Chejingi Pesonam Ki Dola Penche Sangye Rupasha Sangye Chedan Zogi Chonam La Chanchu Badu Dani Yasu Chi Dagi Chejingi Pesonam Ki Dola Penche Sangye Rupasha. practice Dharma, practice. What do you mean practice Dharma? So then Don Thomas said, renounce this life. So that was what he meant by practicing Dharma. So what do you think that means, renounce this life? Means he should kill himself?
No.
Huh? But what is it, how does that mean, renounce this life? Give up craving?
Practice doing its the Dharma basically says giving it up, not having all the. It isn't like you can't have anything, but it's like you don't have to like you don't have to you don't have to have tons of everything. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. It's like you don't have to have tons of everything, but you have your needs met. That's basically, there's a difference between needs and wants in this life.
Well, you know, I mean, it's possible not to have anything, but still have craving. In fact, you know, maybe sometimes it can be worse, you know. You don't have anything and you see all the people who have tons of stuff. Maybe, you know, your mind is more dissatisfied than theirs, you know.
So you asked, so you, to give up would be to give up doing things for you, would be not giving up for yourself, but putting your attention and all of your actions on helping others to achieve happiness, the ultimate happiness.
That's good, but you know, wouldn't it be better to practice Dharma? You know?
Recognizing that the things of this world ultimately are ultimately suffering.
Like what? Like your breakfast.
Pardon?
Your breakfast is a thing of this life. Is your breakfast suffering? Maybe you skip breakfast.
The attachment to it would be thinking that, I'm going to be really happy if I eat breakfast this
Yeah,
morning.
that's suffering.
Yeah.
See, helping others, like, you know, when I was driving here today, I stopped at a light and there was a guy, homeless, hungry, you know. So, you think, well, should I give him something or not? So then, you think, well, if I give him something, you know, other people in the other cars will see me, I think I'm a good person. You know? So that's not a very good motivation, you know. That's really giving to myself, even though physically a dollar may pass from one hand to another.
I wasn't thinking on that level, though.
No, I'm talking about my level.
Okay, sorry.
Not your level. So but it's helping. In a way, it's helping other. I mean, the guy got a dollar, you know.
Right.
But you know, so I'm letting you know I gave him a dollar, I didn't give him a quarter. You know? So you think, well, wow, he's generous. You know? So then afterwards, I drove off. I thought, maybe I should have given him 10. You know, it's a dollar. You know.
So for me, I'm always asking, what is helpful? So that's
That's a
my
really good
focus.
question to always ask. Yeah.
Yeah, what is helpful? So
You know, there's another story about, it comes a lot in the Lam Rim, in Liberation, I think this Geshe mentioned, Geshe Ben Kungel. You remember his name? Have you heard his name from the teachings, Geshe Ben? He was a Kadampa Geshe. The tradition of teachings that started with a Tisha is called the Kadam tradition, and the followers are called Kadampas. There's a contemporary Buddhist organisation called the New Kadampa tradition, which has appropriated the name, but they're very anti His Holiness the Dalai Lama, so we don't approve of them, but they've appropriated the name Kadampa. So, and actually the tradition was started by Dom Tomba, and he founded a monastery called Retting Monastery, which is a little northeast of Lhasa. That's where His Holiness said if he ever went to Tibet, or when he goes to Tibet to retire, that's where he'll live, at Retting Monastery, founded by Dom Tomba, and the kind of the seat of the Kadampa Geshes. Of course, they spread from there, and they were famous for their intensive practice of Dharma, renouncing the 8 worldly dharmas, and practicing what's called thought transformation, or transforming all our actions with bodhicitta, with the determination to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. Thought transformation or mind training. Of course, all Dharma practice is thought transformation. We're trying to transform our thought or our mind from negative to positive. So, but generally it means transforming all your actions with bodhicitta.
But what is the encounter of the nature of the bodhicitta within yourself? It's wonderful to speak about the nature of a word that is not easy for Western mind to even appreciate fully the nature of the training of the space between thoughts and transform yourself. To begin with, the root of that energy of people who have the destiny or the dedication, the devotion, the intensity, the determination to fulfill that energy. The world is perfect. It's what minds make of it, what the mind makes of it. So,
well, let's not get into whether the world's perfect or not, but it's certainly,
flower is the flower, sky is the sky, the Dharmakaya is Dharmakaya. Those ones are the ones who are blessing us with the teaching, what you call the Dharma. I don't understand that word fully myself.
Which word?
I think of Dharma as a practice.
Well, Dharma is actually I think it's defined in this book, because, in fact, on the previous page, if I'm not mistaken, on page 15, it says, Dharma is not just a name, it has great meaning. Do you have the book?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, page 15, Kant's. It is not a term owned by a religion such as Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and so forth. The pure practice of Dharma belongs to us all. It's created by the mind, as you say. It is the method shown to us by the enlightened being, the Buddha. It is the method he followed, practiced, and experienced completely. The Sanskrit term Dharma means holding or guiding. So Dharma is that which leads us from the suffering of lower realms to the state of enlightenment. So it has this feeling of
elevation.
There's a pit of burning fire that you're about to fall into, but something prevents you from doing it. Something holds you up. So it has that kind of connotation. It stops you from falling into suffering. When we talk about 8 worldly dharmas, that, as it explains here, that word dharma is a different dharma. So we spell that with a small d dharma. So that means an existent phenomenon. Sure, the Tibetan word is the same also. So 8 worldly dharmas is Tibetan Jiten Ki Chögye, the 8 dharmas of the world, or mundane existence. So that dharma is different. Anyway, if you read that here on page 15, it explains. So bodhicitta, again another Sanskrit word. I mean, often we try, when we're publishing Dharma books or we're talking about Dharma, a lot of the terms we translate into English, but a lot of the terms don't have a really good English equivalent. So you can try to create these kind of clumsy constructions that sort of approximate. But some words is better. I mean, karma. Just understand what karma means. Don't try and bring make an English word instead of it. Just introduce it to a language. So you'll see that karma is probably in the dictionary. Karma, Buddha, Bodhisattva, nirvana. These Sanskrit words, you'll probably find them in the dictionary. I don't know if their dictionary definitions are correct or not, but at least the words there. So bodhicitta has two parts, bodhi and chitta. Bodhi, B-O-D-H-I, not body. Bodhi means awakening, like bodhisattva. A being who's, sattva means a being. So a being who's going to enlightenment. So bodhi means awakened or awakening. Chitta means mind, awakening mind, the mind of awakening. So sometimes people translate it as the mind of awakening, or as the spirit of enlightenment. And Bob Thurman says that. So you can do that, or you can just say bodhicitta and come to understand what it means. What it means is the determination to reach enlightenment for the sole purpose of enlightening sentient beings, like I just said before. It means recognizing that all our happiness, also as I said, all our past, present and future happiness, ultimate and temporal, comes through the kindness of all sentient beings, all without exception. Is that an outrageous proposition? How does it happen? Why is it true?
Because we're all interconnected together, and what we're seeing coming to us is actually just our mind projecting forward, and so...
Projecting what? Forward?
What we're seeing coming at, when we're seeing another person, we're interpreting that from our own mind, what that other person is meaning, how we're understanding that other person is coming from our own cognitive understanding of it. So if our cognitive understanding of things is rooted in bodhicitta and goodwill and positive feelings, then the way that we interpret things coming to us is also positive and good feelings. So it can...
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the latest demon, Bashar al-Assad. So how does all your past, present, future happiness, temporal, come from him?
You have to accept that he is also a part of you, that everything that you're seeing is somehow part of you, whether it's not just your personal existence or experience of yourself in this moment, but all of your past lives, because everyone has been your mother from the traditional teaching. Everyone has been your mother is, I think, trying to get at the idea that everything that's existing is somehow a part of your larger existence. So to understand everything that's coming at you is a human existence in some way that I also own. Like I could be like that if I were in that situation, or I had been born him, or like it doesn't really matter.
Well, that's an important concept for us to understand and try to experience, how all sentient beings have been our mother and kind to us in various ways in the past. And the purpose of that is to try to generate a feeling of love and compassion and closeness with all sentient beings, including the President of Syria and so on, no matter how badly they're behaving at the moment. That's has a slightly different purpose. Right? So the question is, how does all happiness come from each and every sentient being?
Assad is giving everybody a chance to practice patience, to practice tolerance, to accept the kind of suffering that is being generated. And so in doing so, he is actually very kind, because he is helping everyone to move along on the path.
Yeah, I don't know if people being tortured in black holes in Damascus are really going to be practicing what patience. I mean, theoretically, it's possible, but In fact, His Holiness, it's interesting, you know, of course the Tibetans underwent and are undergoing similar situation at the hands of the you know, Beijing-inspired Chinese people who have occupied Tibet and have been there 50 years. His Holiness was speaking about, His Holiness Dalai Lama was speaking about a Tibetan monk who came out of Tibet and said, who'd been in prison and who'd been tortured in Tibet, and he said to His Holiness, you know, it was terrible in prison in Tibet. You know, I felt I was really in danger. And His Holiness thought, well, he meant in danger of being killed, something like that. He said, oh, what sort of danger? He said, I was really in danger of losing my compassion for the Chinese. So that's not many people feel like that, especially in Damascus. I don't think they teach that kind of practice very much in Islam somehow. But maybe they do, I don't know much about Islam. But, you know, it seems to be a fairly unique Buddhist, and that's kind of what we mean by thought transformation. You know, even if you're being tortured, don't lose your compassion. You know, it's kind of hard to do, I should imagine. You know? It's hard to do even when you're not being tortured. No, so the answer really is, where does happiness come from? What is the actual cause of happiness? So we say in all sentient beings who kind of exist out there, you know. I mean, you say they're part of us, but they're, you know, conventionally speaking, they're not. We're all individual beings. So how do all of us here and all other beings everywhere, how are they the cause of my happiness? Past, present, future. So the question is, what is the actual cause of happiness? Anybody?
Happiness. So by the opportunity to give happiness to someone else, you create the cause for yourself to receive happiness. Cause and effect.
So what are you saying?
So by having the opportunity to give someone else kindness, then they are giving you the opportunity to receive kindness back in return, because you receive what you give. So they give you the opportunity to plant the seeds for the happiness, for your future happiness to then be able to flower later, because you were able to give someone else the happiness.
Right, but you know, there's a few people that you meet, and what about the, you know, fish at the bottom of the ocean that you're probably never going to meet, you know?
Well, that's why you're lucky to have met someone to practice to giving the happiness to, because I won't be able to meet the bottom of the ocean fish, but if I meet you, then I can be happy to you.
So how the fish at the bottom of the ocean responsible for your past, present, and future happiness?
By intention, by creating intention,
how everything is, every single little thing is necessary in every given moment for the exchange of even two things.
Okay, I think I've have to put you out of your misery. What?
Well, I was going to say that the problem is how can it be something external? How can happiness be something that's generated externally? I mean, I thought the point of what we're supposed to be learning is that it isn't something being achieved or...
No, and hence my question.
Right. I don't
With all sentient beings out there, how can they cause my happiness, which comes from inside me?
Right, yeah.
So where does my inside happiness come from? It comes from my positive karma. Happiness comes from positive karma. If you haven't created any positive karma, doesn't matter how rich you are, doesn't matter how many friends you have, doesn't matter what, you will not be happy. It's like, you know, there are no seeds in this floor. So no matter how much fertilizer, how much water, how much sunshine you put on the floor, nothing's going to grow. It's dry. Or even if it's dirt, if there are no seeds in it, doesn't matter how much you water it, sunshine, minerals, fertilizer, cultivate it, nothing will grow because there's no seeds. So it doesn't matter how rich we are, how many friends we have, if we don't have the seeds of happiness, we won't be happy. So where do the seeds of happiness come from? Where does the good karma, the merit, come from? It comes from practicing Dharma. Renounce this life. It comes from practicing Dharma. Where does the Dharma come from? It comes from the Buddha. Where does the Buddha come from? Buddha comes from the Bodhisattva, the being who's practicing bodhicitta, going to become a Buddha. The Buddhas come from the Bodhisattva. Where does the Bodhisattva come from? The Bodhisattva comes from bodhicitta. If you don't have bodhicitta, you're not a Bodhisattva. Where does bodhicitta come from? Bodhicitta comes from great compassion. Bodhicitta is the development of great compassion. So ordinary compassion is wanting others to be free from suffering. Great compassion is wanting each and every sentient being. So usually we feel compassion for our friends or people we know or people we can relate to, something like that, puppies. We don't have a lot of compassion for cockroaches or poisonous snakes, or Bashar al-Assad. So, if you watch the PETA videos of animals being tortured, the pigs, the chickens, the dogs being skinned alive in China for their fur, all this stuff, you get very angry at the people who are doing it. But that's not the right response, because for the people doing it, it's only a matter of time before the situation is reversed, actually. So you need to kind of step back and see the big picture. Anyway, that's something else. So, great compassion is compassion for each and every sentient being without exception. So if you think, well, I feel compassion, I want all beings to be free from suffering, except Assad, because he doesn't deserve it, then that's not great compassion. You will not develop bodhicitta. So great compassion depends on each and every sentient being without exception. So that's how our happiness comes from all sentient beings. Because the bodhisattvas generated great compassion for each and every sentient being. So from that developed not just wanting each and every sentient being to be free from suffering, but actually taking great responsibility to make it happen. To actually free all sentient beings without exception from suffering. So then you look and say, well, I don't just want them to be free. I'm going to free them from suffering. So you think, well, that sounds a little grandiose, how can I do that? And you think, well, actually, sentient beings suffering comes from ignorance. That's the root cause of our suffering and their suffering. So the best way to free sentient beings from suffering is to free them from the cause of suffering. If you don't want the effect, get rid of the cause. If you don't want the result, get rid of the cause. So the cause is ignorance. The answer is wisdom. Wisdom is what, defeats ignorance. So who has the greatest wisdom of all? Is the Buddha. The Buddha is enlightened. The Buddha has an omniscient mind. The greatest possible wisdom. Has the knowledge and anyway. So if I want to free all sentient beings from suffering, I have to become a Buddha. So that is the germination of the bodhicitta. The determination to become enlightened, to become Buddha, in order to be able to free all sentient beings from suffering. It takes time, doesn't happen overnight, but that's so then the Buddha, then the Bodhisattva becomes enlightened, becomes a Buddha, starts giving Dharma teachings. Sentient beings like us receive the Dharma teachings, and we practice and we create merit. And from that merit, we get happy. Our happiness comes, our temporary happiness, having a house, nice friends, food, clothes, the luxury of being able to study Dharma more. So that's how all our past, present and future. Then, through practicing Dharma, we get better future lives, we attain liberation, we become enlightened. So all our happiness, past, present and future, all what we have, what we're going to experience, temporary happiness, ultimate happiness, that's how it all comes from all sentient beings. So it's not because, someone gives us $10 or $1, whatever it is. It's because we have merit, we have positive karma that we've created through our own practice of Dharma in this life or in previous lives. And we could only practice Dharma because we were taught to practice by Buddha or by our teachers who are Buddhas appearing as teachers, because we don't have enough merit to be able to meet actual Buddha, Shakyamuni, for example. So our teachers, those Buddhas, they were once bodhisattvas. Those bodhisattvas were bodhisattvas, so they generated bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, great compassion, came from all sentient beings without exception. Clear? Okay. Morning.
So is it right to say then that all sentient beings are responsible for our happiness because it allows us to be, they are the cause of our not being biased? In other words, being biased means to sort of think that Assad is not worthy of our compassion. But all sentient beings, including Assad, all without exception, means that we are having compassion without bias.
Yeah, the thing is that someone who's creating great suffering and harming many others, Assad, or there are many examples, in a way they're kind of deserving of more compassion than someone who's being kind. It's like someone's being nice to you, you feel, well, they don't need much compassion. In a way they do, but the people who are creating obvious harm, they're heading for incredible suffering, right? More than we could even imagine. So they actually, instead of having anger and hatred towards them, we should have compassion by seeing the big picture. And this is kind of a little bit the harder part, that the people who are being tortured and killed, the animals being skinned alive, or the people being gassed, or whatever's happening in Syria or in Tibet or in many different places, women being raped and tortured and murdered in India. All these things we see, you feel kind of, if they hadn't created the karma for that to happen, it wouldn't have happened. You can't say they deserved it to happen because, they wore a skimpy skirt or something. That's not that kind of deserved, But if a person or an animal hasn't created the karma to suffer, it won't suffer. So this is why we talk about samsara, cyclic existence. What goes around comes around. You torture, you kill, you rape, you do this. It's only a matter of time before it's happening to you. And then at that time, they're going to be looking at you and say, oh, poor Bashar al-Assad, he's being tortured and gassed, he doesn't deserve it. But actually, deserve isn't quite the right word, but you create the cause, you experience the result. These are the 4 inexorable facts about karma. Good karma brings happiness. Bad karma brings suffering. That's the law. That's the universal law. It's not created by God. It's not created by Newton. You know, it's just how things are. And this is what the Dharma teachings are. Dharma explain how things are. This is what the Buddha saw how things are. And explained. That's how he became enlightened. He saw how things are. And then he explained to others how things are. But the power of Buddha and the power of karma are kind of equal. The Buddha can only work without karma. So, you know, even at the time, the Buddha, a lot of people saw him as a liar and a charlatan, you know, even though he was a Buddha, just because can't get through. I mean, the animals who were around the Buddha, you know, they were kind of blessed through his presence, but they couldn't practice, they couldn't recite mantras, they couldn't, you know, become monks or anything, you know. So the other one is that karma is expandable, that even a tiny positive action will grow, just like you plant a tiny seed and a big tree grows and it produces more seeds and eventually a forest, you know. So like that, and same with negative karma, you know. If you create even a small negative karma, if you don't purify it, it will fester and become greater suffering. That you can't experience the result of the karma that you haven't created. So if you want to be rich and famous, if you haven't created the karma to be rich and famous, it's not going to happen. Of course, if you want to be rich and famous, and you understand how to create the karma, then you can do that. It may not happen in this life, but in the future life, when you're rich and famous, you'll think, I'm rich and famous, but you won't know how it happened. And similarly, if you create the karma to experience great suffering, you're going to experience it. And if you haven't, you won't. So when we see people suffering in these various ways, it's because they created the cause. So we think, oh my God, you saying the Jews, 6 million Jews who died in the gas chambers, you know, it happened because they brought it on themselves? Yes. Otherwise, why? Otherwise, what's the reason? God did it to them? I mean, they pray to this God, and then he sends them to the gas chamber. I mean, what kind of God? Well, they say, oh, Hitler did it. You know. There are a lot of Jews who escaped, but they didn't have the karma to die, you know. So, I mean, who knows what Hitler's going through at the moment. But, you know, it's going to be probably a lot worse than dying in a gas chamber. And then the fourth one, the results of karma are never lost. So if you create a karma, you're going to experience the result tomorrow or in a billion years' time. If it's positive karma, you will experience, unless you destroy it by getting angry, by having wrong views, things like that. There are things that, if you don't dedicate the positive karma, if we don't dedicate, this is why at the end of the teachings and we dedicate the merit in order to preserve it, like put it in the bank, you know. Not that that's so safe anymore, but you know, maybe mattresses, you're dedicated putting it under your mattress, maybe that's safer than the banks. And if you create negative karma, you'll experience negative unless you do the purification practice. So that's why we do, you know, 4 opponent powers, Vajrasattva, we do, you know, 35 Buddhas, all these different purification practices to purify negative karma, because the result will not be lost unless the seed is destroyed. So, anyway, so that's where the happiness comes from. Positive karma. Positive karma comes from the Dharma. Dharma comes from the Buddha. Buddha comes from Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva comes from great compassion. Great compassion comes from all sentient beings. That's it. So that's why all sentient beings ultimately are the cause of our past, present, and future happiness, and why we owe them a debt of gratitude, and why we shouldn't harm them, but why we should help them. And the thing about seeing them all as our mother is also true, but that has a slightly different purpose, that kind of meditation, that kind of idea, you know. Okay, Mike was next, then you.
The worldly dharmas, since we won't escape them because we're made of the flesh, right? We won't, in this life, we won't experience true happiness. Is that a true statement?
Not necessarily, no. Depends what you mean by true happiness. What do you mean by true happiness?
You have a boat, you want a bigger boat. You have some money, you want more money. This constant craving, is described in the dharmas, right? Even in this class, when I was thinking of asking a question, I had fear that how my question would be perceived, like a craving, and I wanted my question to sound like a good question. Like
That's a good question.
Suffering from this constant craving, or fear of other people's opinions, or desiring other people to like my question. Like, I'm not going to escape that in this lifetime because I'm made of this flesh. You said that ignorance is the cause of unhappiness. Is ignorance flesh? And is my karma resulted in this flesh? And since I'll never, in this lifetime, never going to get out of this body, at some level, I'm always going to be afraid.
Well,
I can lower that. And just wrapping up one more thought, and then it's kind of a streaming consciousness in the form of a question. Karma. You talked about the cause of happiness being karma, right? That's another point I'll bring up another time. I'll stop there. Go ahead.
That's a really great question. There's so much in that. We could talk for a couple of weeks about what you just said. The flesh, first of all, this is a good body. There are, as far as bodies go, there are useful ones and not so useful ones. It's much better to have a human body than a dog's body, for example. Because a human body gives us potential to understand and practice Dharma, the cause of true happiness. Or real, did you say true happiness or real happiness? What was the word you used?
True happiness.
Whatever. I know what you mean. And
No. What was the word you used?
I forget. Nick.
Real happiness or true happiness? Anyway,
Happiness.
True happiness. The happiness that arises from practicing Dharma is true happiness, even though we experience it in this body, because it's part of the trajectory that takes us to ultimate lasting happiness. The difference between ordinary happiness, that we normally experience through usually contact with sense objects or things like that, is that happiness is the ripening of a positive seed, positive karmic seed. Of course, because it's happiness. By definition, it's the result of positive karma. But how do we respond to it? If we respond to it with craving, we want more. Oh, I like this. And this is what we tend to do. The reason we tend to do this, and this is where kind of the worldly dharmas come from, is because we don't understand kind of what I was alluding to before. Principal and contributory causes. I'll say everything, although there may be exceptions I can't immediately think of. Everything has two causes, a principal cause and a secondary cause. Like the plant that didn't grow. The plant that did grow, there we are, flowers. So they came from the seeds. But it wasn't the seed alone that did it. The seed had to be planted in the dirt condition. The dirt had to be watered, another condition. The dirt had to have minerals, whatever they need, in it. It needed sunshine. There are so many factors acting on the seed that caused it to germinate. So all those factors could be there. If there's no seed, it's not going to happen. And the seed, without the factors, it's not going to grow, or even though it has the potential. The potential is there. When the conditions come together, it'll grow. So like that, we have billions of karmic seeds within us to experience happiness, all kinds of happiness and suffering. when the conditions are right, those seeds ripen. So when we, you know, you're at a party and there's all these people there, and then you see someone who looks really attractive, and this kind of, when you see a stranger from across a crowded room, something, the chemistry starts, and it's like, I've got to meet him, I've got to meet her, So then you kind of, depending on your technique, you either bowl straight up or you say, who's that, you figure it out, and then you get together and somehow it works, and it's like, you feel so happy, it's like, I've never had this happen, but I've heard about it, and then it's like, this is like, that person is so beautiful, and that person you make me happy. I mean, you hear it all the time. Look at the greeting cards. Go to the greeting card section. There's like the eight worldly dharmas in all their various guises. And it's like, and there's like this such a strong belief that this feeling I'm experiencing now, this happiness, this I never thought this would happen to me feeling, is because of that person. It really comes from, let me say, her, and I really believe it. So then then that person is so attractive. So I want this feeling to last. So, first of all, what's at play here is my ignorance, because I don't know what's really going on. I don't understand the psychological mechanisms at work here, but so there's the ignorance, and then the attachment comes, and I see that person as really attractive. Now, the guy that she just dumped sees her as horrible, as ugly, as nasty, as the worst person on earth, It's the same person, her, but in his view, she's like the devil. She, used him, she took his money, she, cut up his suits, whatever happened, it's like, you can find these bad relationship stories online if you don't know what I'm talking about. But me, the next guy, like, she's the most beautiful thing, and it's like, so I want this feeling to last. So my attachment is a mind that sees the object of attachment as attractive and beautiful and wants to kind of merge with it, sort of sink into it like oil on paper. And when attachment, like oil on paper, if you put oil on paper, it's very difficult to get out, almost impossible, right? So attachment is very painful to separate. But I want to, because I believe that she is the actual cause of this feeling, I want her. I want to be with her all the time. I want to possess her. So then my political mind starts. Well, how can I do that? If I show her who I really am, she'll run the other way. So I have to put on a nice face, I have to try and be attractive myself, deodorant, nice clothes, if I had hair, I'd comb it, be nice, tell her all the good stories about me, myself, build myself up, this whole new persona that I didn't even know existed starts to manifest itself, so she'll think I'm attractive. Of course, the same thing's possibly going on with her, when two people do get together, that's kind of what happens, So, and then I say, well, I want to be loved. She says, I love you. And she's like, oh, I love you too, Oh, we love each other, And it's like, this is attachment, this is not love. This is like, I want to be happy, so I will be nice to you. I will tell you I love you so that you will stay with me. So, because ask the other guy, you put this to the test. Because true love is wanting the other person to be happy. That's what love is. Love is wanting others to be happy. Compassion is wanting others to be free from suffering. Love is wanting others to be happy. Attachment, which is normally what we call love, that you see in movies and in your life. Love is what we feel to people and being, our pets or whatever, to whom we're attached. We don't feel like that to everybody. We just feel like that towards people we get something out of, basically. Or that we feel society needs us to love them. Our criminal children or whatever, it's like because, after a while you can't maintain the facade. Neither of us can, So when mine starts to crack and crumble and she sees who I really am, thinking, oh, wait a minute, I thought he was this and that, but actually he's that and this. So she starts to lose interest because she gets to know me a little bit better, unfortunately. So then she goes to another party and across the crowded room she sees this other guy who, he's taller, he's got more hair, he's younger, he's better educated, he's actually a nicer person. So good for her, So she comes to me and says, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm out of here. I met this other guy, So now, do I say, you can be happier with someone else? That's fantastic. I'm so happy for you. By all means, go, If there's someone else makes you happier than I can, that's what I want for you. That is not the typical reaction. Then it comes one of the other negative minds, jealousy, hatred. You hate her. Now this person who made me happy, the same person, now she makes me unhappy. So then I get angry. I say, it's like, no, lip reading. So, and then, maybe I'll kill them both. I mean, you see this happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the children. I mean, it's like people go crazy out of anger. So, we hear all the time about the 3 poisonous minds, right? Everybody knows what they are. I don't need to quiz you on this. Ignorance, attachment and aversion. 3 poisonous minds. The 3, we talk in technically 6 principal delusions. The 3 main delusions of the 6 principal delusions. Because ignorance, the 2 kinds of ignorance. The ignorance of karma. We don't understand the forces at play in the cause of happiness and suffering. Principal and secondary causes. The principal cause of happiness and suffering is karma. The secondary or contributory causes are like, the conditions. The dirt, the water. So, to experience... Anyway, so like that. Ignorance. So, from ignorance we don't understand karma, we don't understand how things exist. So when I see the attractive person, I project attractive onto someone who's neither attractive nor unattractive. The person is just a person, Some people see her as attractive, some people see her as ugly and as nasty. It's empty of inherent existence, of inherent attractiveness or inherent ugliness. It's just a person, But our attachment paints attractive for a while. So when that paint wears off and something else manifests, then, or as a karma, to be attracted to that person finishes, because karma doesn't last forever. So I see that person as attractive, but the energy, that positive karma, gets used up. So when it finishes, then another manifestation. Then I start to say, oh, hang on, she's not that attractive after all, even if she didn't meet the other guy, you know? So then, sorry, I keep pointing at you. You're the attractive one. I'll fictionalise. So then, oh, you know, not so attractive, you know. Maybe I can do better, you know, looking around, you know. Go to another party, meet someone else, you know. Goodbye. So it becomes very annoying, you know. Oh, the way she eats, you know, the sort of stupid things she says, you know, the way this or that, you know. I mean, we all have bad habits. So at first they're endearing, you know. Later on they're revolting. So then anger or dislike, even if it's not anger, it's hatred, you know, arises. So, or, you know, or someone interferes, someone takes away, so then I get angry, you know. So ignorance, we don't see the way in which things exist. Attachment, because we want to be happy, and we experience a positive feeling of happiness in contact with certain sense objects, we attribute that feeling to the sense object without understanding the actual evolution of it. So then we become attached to that object. So when that object is taken away, when we get frustrated, we get angry, whether it's another person or some, you know, someone smashes our car, or, you know, we're in the line waiting for that piece of cake and then the person in front of us orders it, you know, or, you know, so many examples we can think of. But how when our attachment's frustrated, we get annoyed, we get angry, we get upset. Or the person didn't drive fast enough in front of us, so we missed the light. I mean, you know, it happens all the time. So that's the evolution. On the basis of ignorance, attachment. On the basis of attachment, anger. That's it. That's the story of our life. That's the story of the 8 worldly dharmas. Craving, attachment, wanting something. Aversion when it doesn't happen. Craving for happiness and comfort. Aversion to unhappiness and discomfort. Craving to be free, you can also read aversion. So desire for material possession, aversion to a lack. Desire for happiness and comfort, aversion to unhappiness and discomfort. Desire for good reputation, people thinking it was a good question. Aversion to bad reputation, what a stupid question. You know, desire for praise. Oh, you know, good reputation and praise, they're a little different. You know, good reputation is what you get. You know, what people think about you on the internet. You know, nice. Good. Praise is what people say, kind of say to your face or within hearing. Well, you know, he's a really good meditator. Or, you know, you're really. You know, you're really good at this or that. I mean, you know, praise, we all know that. So, desire for good reputation and praise, and aversion to bad reputation and criticism. So, up and down, all day, every day, up and down, always wanting this, never wanting that. And being at the mercy of our karma, not even knowing that below the surface, there's actually, it's all kind of, not really predestined, but the causes have been created to a large extent, you know. It's not to say we can't change it, but if we don't understand what's below the surface, we'll never change it, because we won't even know there's something there to be changed. You know what I'm saying? So, sorry, what was your question?
I have a question about karma. Could it be passed on from the parents to child?
No. Each of us has our own. Each of us has our own discrete stream of consciousness. I mean, what you.
Well, I was thinking of the question too about this. You know how you said about the seed. So what if you didn't get the right sun or the right water or the right this or the right that as a child, and then it just perpetuates into.
Well, then, if you did get the right conditions, that seed remains within you until a future life when it does.
Okay.
That's why I say one of the 4 things of karma, it's never lost. Now, you can destroy it. You can destroy positive seeds, you can destroy negative seeds by acting in certain ways, consciously or unconsciously. But if that seed isn't destroyed by one of those means, it will remain there and ripen until the conditions. But we can, by understanding karma, we can try and nurture positive seeds in our children. But if they don't have the positive seeds from previous lives, then unless we help them plant the positive seeds in this life, it's a losing battle, because you're watering the floor. He's not going to grow. And this is what I was going to say before, I didn't quite finish, that cyclic existence is round and round, that, you create positive karma, you get a good result, you create negative karma, you get a bad result, you get a good result, you react in a negative way, you react with attachment and greed and grasping and wanting more. It just creates negative karma. And what I also didn't say when talking about, what thing to come back, but it's called it's called the vicious state of samsara, or cyclic existence. It's just relentless, that you create a negative karma. It doesn't matter how good you are in this life, whatever. If that negative karma from previous life is strong enough, it'll destroy you. And so that's why we see, why do bad things happen to good people? Because they weren't always good people, they were bad people. That's why the bad things happened. We're all bad people and we're all good people, and it's just a matter of time before one or the other manifests in this life or in future lives. That's how it is. And it's just this relentless wheel, and sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down, and it just goes round and round, and unless we get ourselves off, that's how it will always be, and that's how it's always been. So each of us has our own discrete stream of consciousness that's beginningless. Each of us has been, not our body, our mind, our stream of consciousness has been around since beginningless time. So, if you think your childhood was a long time ago, try and get your mind around beginningless time. And the habits that have become ingrained since beginningless time, smoking after 20 years is hard enough to give up. Beginningless time, it's a whole other story. So, and in that beginningless time, we've experienced every happiness that's possible to experience. There's nothing what's new and exciting. Nothing. It's just we've forgotten. We've experienced everything bad, we've experienced everything good. Beginningless time. Numberless times since beginningless time. There's nothing new to experience. It's just that our mind is so limited, and that pretty much to this life, and not even all of this life, not even all of yesterday, that we can't remember, that we're always seeking these new experiences, and never really, never looking for actually what is the new experience, which is the Dharma experience, which is the realization of the Dharma. See, the difference between ordinary happiness and Dharma happiness is, with ordinary happiness, a good meal, or whatever sense happiness it is, sunshine on a warm day, air conditioning on sunshine on a cold day, air conditioning on a hot day. Whatever little happinesses we have, meeting that other person, we want them. It's so easy when we have that experience for attachment to arise, and for us, I want this, I want more, I want better. This is good. I want it to last. Not only do I want it to last, I want it to get better. So that's the story of the supermarket. Look at the breakfast cereal aisle, or is it 2 aisles by now? There was like the inner circumambulation path was just around the Patala, the Dalai Lama's main residence, you know. Then there was an intermediate one that went around, I think, the Norbulinka, his summer residence, and something else. And then there was the Lingkor, the one that went around the whole town. And some would walk around. I think Lama Yeshe prostrated his way around the whole thing, you know. So, because the more further out you go, the more holy objects you're circumambulating. Anyway, you know, the monks would be there, so they'd be studying the texts, you know, they'd be debating, they'd be learning this, they'd be memorizing hundreds of pages of stuff, Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Shantideva, Tsongkhapa, I mean, all this, you know. And they'd see the old Tibetans, they'd be circumambulating and say, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, like we see the people here, right? The old Tibetans. This is a, what do you call it? A microcosm of Lhasa. So, and they say, you know, the old Tibetans, you know, they're reciting their mantras, you know, we're studying the texts, you know, debating. So then when Geshe Rabdin, one of our teachers, went to the West, he had this new profound respect for the old Tibetans. So at least they're doing something. In the West, they're wandering the supermarket aisles looking for the best cereal, you know. There's no merit at all. You know, at least the Tibetans are circumambulating, they're reciting the mantras, you know, they're doing something with their precious human body, you know. Flesh as it may be, you know, but they're doing something. We can do something with it. So the difference between ordinary happiness and true happiness, what we call true happiness, Dharma happiness, is that with ordinary happiness, when you experience it, it doesn't last, it finishes. And then you have to do the action all over again. You know, you find your favourite breakfast cereal, you eat it, you can't keep eating it because it's not really the cause of happiness. If you keep eating it, you'll throw up, it'll hurt, you'll get sick. So you eat a little bit, the right amount, and then tomorrow you look forward to have some more, you know. After a couple of weeks, you're back in the supermarket looking for another one, you know. Because the thing that made you happy in the first place, it doesn't last, it doesn't have the potential to last. The karma to experience that happiness finished. Now you find another cereal. So, and what it does, it causes attachment to arise. It causes delusion that this cereal is the cause of this pleasant feeling I'm having. No idea about the karma underlying the whole thing. No idea of the principal cause. Attributing the flower to the dirt and the sunshine and the water, not understanding about seeds, you know. Stupid, right? Every gardener knows you have to plant seeds. But we're trying to plant the seeds of happiness. We don't understand that there are seeds of happiness. We're always trying to create happiness from the external conditions. So not only does that not last and it's not satisfying, the more you do it, the worse it gets. And in the meantime, we're creating attachment, negative karma, 3 poisonous minds. We're on base of ignorance, we're generating attachment. And then we keep eating that stuff, aversion comes, 3 poisonous minds, ignorance, attachment, aversion. You keep eating the cereal, eventually you can't even stand the sight of it. This thing that we thought made us happy now makes us sick. It's the same thing. Nut-free granola. So the more you do it, the worse it gets. It causes you to create negative karma. You have to keep working at it. You have to keep finding new avenues, you know. It never ends. The work never ends. The happiness always finishes. Right? As my friend in Singapore, Mr. Tan, would say, correct or not? Correct or not? Correct or not? Right. Correct. Dharma. You do Dharma happiness. You meditate. You get a calm mind. You enjoy reading the teachings. The more you do it, the better it gets. The more you do it, it never finishes. Eventually, you get to the point where the happiness lasts forever and the work is over. Dharma is the complete opposite of worldly. The more you do it, the better it gets. The more you work, the better the happiness gets. Eventually you reach the point where the happiness lasts forever, and the work's gone. You don't have to work anymore. You're in cruise control. So there are two levels of that, right?
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, two levels of that. There's individual liberation, where you've just freed yourself from suffering, karma and delusion. So at least you're not out there harming others, but you're not really being of much help. Or, and that's not the end of the line, you have to go to enlightenment. So when you reach enlightenment, that's the ultimate happiness. So, in terms of, intensity of happiness, some people say, well, the most intense happiness or pleasure we can experience with this body is the happiness of orgasm. I don't know if anybody's ever had that, but I've heard it's really intense. So, and people want to have it again. Of course, you have to really work hard at it. It costs a lot of money. There's dinner, the movies, the alcohol. I mean, it's like, the games, the politics, the private room. I mean, so, and then, the foreplay. I mean, it's like, and then it's gone, and the whole thing starts again. After the exhaustion. So it's like, and there's even no guarantees. So, but that's for us. That's kind of as good as it gets. Occasionally you hear people say, "Oh, better than sex." Well, maybe there is something, but that's usually metaphorical. It's not really. You just try. It's just like saying, "Well, this is good," better than sex. So that. Now, a worldly attainment we can experience is a single point of concentration. We meditated briefly on our breath at the beginning. Remember that? Can you remember that far back? So, okay. So meditate on breath, maybe for 3 breaths, and the mind's gone somewhere. Thinking about this or that, or or do I really have to do this? Or my knee hurts, or I wonder if people think I'm sitting in the nice way. I mean, it's like so. So if we can still that, if we really actually practice meditation successfully, and now to practice meditation successfully, if we don't have pure morality, if we're engaging in our 3 poisons, if we're activating our 3 poisons all the time, no way we can attain a calm, single-pointed mind. But those who have achieved single-pointed concentration, if you look at there are 9 levels of attaining shamatha or calm abiding. You'll see in some of the books the Shine chart. You've seen the chart with the monk and the elephant and the monkey, and there's the winding road. It finishes up with the monk who's depicted there, but it doesn't have to be a monk; it can be anybody, flying in the air. That's called, Lama Zopa calls that rapturous ecstasy. So no one ever experienced rapturous ecstasy that lasted more than a second with sex, But rapturous ecstasy lasts for a long time, That's what you can get through meditation. That is like a total body orgasm that lasts like for as long as you want it to, basically. So, you don't have to be Buddhist. This is not just a Buddhist thing. Hindus, other meditative traditions have that achievement in it. So that is far beyond anything we could even imagine as happiness and bliss. It fills our body, fills our mind. It's like we're floating, flying. It just blissed out. So that is nothing compared to the bliss experienced by attaining liberation. Beginningless, we've been suffering in cyclic existence since beginningless time. If you've had a headache for a week and it stops, that feels pretty good. This is like a beginningless headache that's gone forever. It never happened again. So that bliss that you experience by attaining nirvana, liberation, far exceeds anything we ever experienced in cyclic existence in our body, whether it's orgasm or single point of concentration. The bliss of enlightenment is far, 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 far beyond the bliss of liberation. So the enlightened being, the Buddha, has this. There's nothing greater than that. It's like mind fills infinite space, and it's pure, it's clear, and it's blissful. Throughout all of space, they're so excited about they find a new galaxy or something like that. That's like next door. Infinite space is infinite space, and the enlightened mind fills infinite space, and it's imbued with indescribable bliss. So that's when the work really stops. In a way, the work doesn't stop, because the spontaneous work is to bring all other sentient beings into that experience, into enlightenment. That's the mission of the enlightened being. But there's no sense of work, I mean, I met the Dharma 40 years ago. And before that, I was in Australia, I was practicing medicine. That was work, I mean, it was good, it was a nice job, and, helped people to a certain extent. But I quit. I haven't done an honest day's work in 40 years because I decided to go full-time in the Dharma, So, there's no looking back. And the difference between Dharma work, doing sort of Dharma, I don't do it very well, but I try my best, See, then it was like, you have to work, everybody has to work because you've got to have money, and you work in order, Monday to Friday, so you can enjoy the weekend or your nights off, So, as you're working, you're not fully engaged because you're thinking what you're going to do on the weekend, you're making plans, But then when you get to the weekend and you're enjoying your time off, you're not really enjoying it because you have this thing, it's only 2 days, it's finishing, it's a long weekend, But all the time it's like the hourglass is running out, and I soon have to go back to work, So your life is kind of split between work and non-work. So you work, and of course your work can be fulfilling and like that, but it's work. And you work so that you can enjoy your non-work. But in your non-work, you're not really enjoying it because your mind is always back at work. And you kind of have this sense of loss as you get closer and closer to Monday, So at least I found by giving up work that, at least I was doing one thing 24 hours a day, That's the Dharma. So that was kind of a benefit. So with enlightenment, there's no sense of work, It's like it's joyfully benefiting others, bringing into enlightenment, rejoicing at every little happiness that you can bring, every little positive seed you can cause to ripen in sentient beings. They have even a moment of happiness brings you great happiness, And all the time you're trying to guide them closer and closer to freedom from suffering, closer and closer to enlightenment. So it's really kind of joyful work. Don't have to say that's totally not my experience, but this is the theory. So my wife's telling me to finish. So I'll finish, but the work hasn't finished. So is it next week or the week after? When's the relics here?
Next week.
The relics are here next week?
Next week, Friday.
So okay, so next Sunday there's no class. In 2 weeks we'll pretend to continue. Okay, so anyway, that was just a sales pitch for enlightenment. Okay, the work finishes, the happiness doesn't finish.
Take 2.
We all go for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so on that happy thought, let's dedicate the merit so we don't destroy it, and hopefully experience the result at some point. So if you have the guts to come back in 2 weeks and you have any questions, we can also deal with those. That's on me. That's my ring, but it's not me. Okay, so we'll do the dedicate. Is that me? Who is that? Oh, it's Chantal. Well, it's her phone anyway. Show how we identify with our phone. Oh, is that me? Is that me ringing? Is that me ringing? Ringing? Okay, Thanksgiving mandala. 39. Sashi Bhagi Joshimeda Dari Rabli Nidegembadi Sangye Yingdu Mideuwa Gidogunana Shilajabayo Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. Okay, the Lamrim prayer. From my two collections, vast as space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my life's Manjushri. May I find the best of completely graded paths of the teaching, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even this graded course to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human, non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in their lives in the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones. May oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. In that snow mountain encircled land is of every benefit and joy. May Lord Tenzin Gyatso Rinpoche reign in life till samsara's end. Saviour of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. Page 49. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honouring the three jewels, Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Your form embodies all Buddhas, your nature is that of Vajradhara, you are the all three jewels, homage to you, O Gurus. In short, I seek your blessings, O Protector, to be cared for by you from birth unremittingly throughout all my lives, and thus to become your chief disciple, holding every secret of your body, speech and mind. O Protector, please grant that all be auspicious for me to be foremost among your very first circle of disciples wherever you manifest Buddhahood, so that all my temporal and ultimate wishes without exception may be effortlessly, spontaneously fulfilled. All my lives never separated from perfect gurus may enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities, the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Furthermore, in life after life, may I, pleasing him in return, be forever fostered by accomplished Mahayana spiritual master, the source of every virtue of this world and beyond. In his care may I acquire in him a firm, unshakable faith, pleasing him by every means possible, doing nothing, for instance, disappoint. May my spiritual master impart me every instruction, every teaching in its entirety. Having understood them faultlessly, may I practice them and be able to bring them to perfection. May I never even for a moment fall under the sway of malevolent teachers and misleading friends. In this belief in cause and effect, renunciation, the Bodhi mind and the pure view, may I embark upon them continually with effortless experience. In every life may I act by way of speech and mind, be causes solely for the welfare of others and for the purest and highest enlightenment. Page 57. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru, Buddha state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious Supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, increase forever more. Page 75. Me me ze wei te chen chen re ze ri me gen be wam bo jam be yan gan chen ke pe no gen zong ha pa lo san ra be tabla so Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if you can read chapters 1 and 2 before next time in the book. Who couldn't get it on the Kindle? Was there someone? Oh, on the Nook. Was there somebody else? Anyway, I'll check on that. So next week is the Relics tour, and anyway, check online, get the news, whatever happens. See you in a couple of weeks. Thanks.
Thank you.